I want to talk about the dream of Jacob, which exists in the Old Testament, both because it is a really wonderful text and also because it helps us think about dreaming. There's a book that will help me too, called The Dream as a Ladder and a Symbol, about dreaming within the Jewish tradition. We will start with the text from the book of Genesis. The words are very beautiful. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Here, there are other things I will not mention, but at the end he adds, when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate to heaven, the gate of heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. Rina Shelef writes in one of the chapters of this book that there's a transition from a horizontal movement to a vertical movement. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran, and he lay down to sleep. All these things, taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head. All this describes a horizontal walk. Recall, Jacob runs away from his brother Esav after stealing his birthright as a firstborn and his blessing, and he flees to Lavan as he fears revenge. So Jacob finds himself in a survival situation, in a horizontal state, in a state of flight. So he lies down and he dreams about the stairway, a ladder, that starts on earth and goes up to heaven, and the angels of the Lord go up and down on it. Jacob reaches another dimension. From the horizontal and survival dimension, an action of dreaming happens and intervenes. And Rina Shelef writes, Jacob's dream is a prototype that represents the act of dreaming. There's a vertical circulation here. The angels of God go up and down the ladder. There's an action of dreaming, and this action changes Jacob's position in the world. Through it, he enters into the vertical axis, that is, a dimension of designation, a dimension in which he knows who he is, who he belongs to from the point of view of legacy, Abraham, Isaac, and what his vocation is on earth. Later, when he awakes, his experience is different, and his walk simultaneously represents horizontality and verticality. He no longer walks through an escape survival mode solely along a horizontal axis. He walks while his feeling of designation throbs in him, and he walks knowing who he is. His walk is in the plane, but he contains the vertical axis within himself. He is different. If we take the action of dreaming and take it back to the spheres of Wilber, it is possible to imagine this ladder as a ladder whose steps are the different spheres, beginning with the most material stratum, the earth, up to the higher stratum of the spirit. One can speak of dreaming as something that generates a certain vertical circulation between these spheres, connecting the functional material existence of Jacob through the mind, soul, and spirit repeatedly binding his bodily existence with his meaning of the existence and his designation on earth. So, the act of dreaming, as I already said, is simultaneously connected to the ability to conceive and distinguish between those planes, the spheres, the different levels, and the union between the different levels, the metabolism, the vertical circulation that runs through these levels. In fact, Jacob's dream, as a prototype of the action of dreaming, generates in him a transformation. In the face of the materialistic collapse of functioning, of escape, of survival, of horizontality, inaugurates in him a new axis of connection, of designation between him and himself, between him and the Creator, which allows him to follow his life and his course from another point of view. Another point that stands out in this book, which is also very nice, is the difference between Jacob's dream and the Tower of Babel. I will deal with it briefly. In the Tower of Babel, the people try to get to heaven. Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens so that we may make a name for ourselves. But there's a difference, and this difference gives us important distinctions about the art of not knowing. Jacob surrenders to the stone. He becomes passive. He performs an act of faith. And from that act, the vertical axis of the connection is conceived. Connection, knowledge, understanding, designation. It all depends on whether he can surrender and let go of any dominance motivation or any megalomania. Contrary to the Tower of Babel, in which men wanted to get to heaven to make themselves a name, there's a megalomaniac motivation and action here. They build and build and build and want to build the ladder, but their mission fails. God mixes the languages and a collapse takes place. We can see that when we are motivated, we have a desire to dominate, a megalomaniac motive, or a will to demonstrate our value, we want to feel important, this action is not successful. All the art of not knowing, of dreaming, depends on an act of faith and devotion in which things can be generated, unexpected things. If we think and try to act as if things are in our hands and we want to attribute a sense of value to ourselves, another achievement, different things can happen, but not the things that really generate transformation. Transformation in O. I want to summarize the subject of dreaming in a few words. Dreaming is an unconscious, unknown processing that occurs all the time in the background, in the depth, a process that goes beyond oneself, that allows us to feel real and present. Dreaming helps process and thaw compressed, sealed, disconnected, and frozen elements, like terrors, and makes it easier for them to enter our mental bloodstream. Dreaming helps us to dream the potentials of others and ours into existence, and helps our experience of existence be more whole, deep, and real. The ability to dream represents a healthy mind, and it is also constitutive of mental health. It is constitutive within an initial clay block or a stack of beta elements. In that block, it facilitates the construction of correct separations and correct circulation between those separations. As I said, dreaming represents a certain alchemical interaction between a process that is greater than me and components that are not yet me. And within this interaction, the experience of our existence is generated.